Well, let's talk about
lingerie.
the duality of what you are doing right now.
Yeah.
We'll get to acting in a moment. You did pivot big time, late in life, and that's one of the lessons that we want to talk about.
Yeah.
Or sort of the big idea in this podcast is you had this dream. You're an engineer now in Houston, Texas. Yeah. You're working sometimes with NASA maybe and some of the people that are based down there.
Well, I worked on the aerospace side. When I first moved to Houston, it wasn't with NASA directly, but it was with like GE Aviation, Boeing, Lockheed Martin.
Wow. It does take rocket science.
It does take rocket science. So I was on the other side of it. So manufacturing is my core as an engineer. So all of these different industries, I've been in manufacturing. So be it manufacturing aircraft parts, release missiles and bombs for the military through certain programs. I don't want to say too much. I don't know how secretive that stuff is. From Wyman Gordon, who I used to work with, and then I pivoted to oil and gas. Then on the oil and gas side, it was more or less manifolds and then drill bits and then some jumpers and things like that in the Gulf. So a lot of the companies who I've been fortunate enough to work with have taught me so much, but oil and gas is a very dominant, hard industry. You have to understand the way we pump oil and what we use it for.
And what we have to understand listening to this podcast is how this woman in oil and gas engineering does this dramatic thing on the drawing board where you're designing something for this industry and all of a sudden a different kind of foundation. And what was the moment, we started this podcast episode talking about your interest when you were young in lingerie.
Yes.
What's the moment in your late life when you go, recently, like you're just celebrating a year of being in business. So, when was the first glimmer of, oh, this is what I want to do?
Well, okay, so I'll take a step back. I'm not a design engineer. I'm metallurgy. So metallurgy is more like quality inspections, making sure all of the compositions. So that's helped me in lingerie. You see? So fabrics. My specialty is raw materials in these industries. So the pivot was not hard, to be honest.
Not obvious, though. Not the first thing most engineers are thinking about.
No, but I'm able to create my own dimensions and specs, tolerance. I have engineer friends that can help me if I get in a little bind. So the thing is, I understand manufacturing, and that's really it. I mean, that's the bulk, supply chain and manufacturing. And then your materials. I would say all designers don't have that background. I don't know, but majority probably don't have a course engineering background, but they may not know compositions to the materials, to the fabrics, the braid down. That's the raw. That's at the raw. So if I'm able to understand raw material from aircrafts and drill bits, how we drill our oil, I can do lace.
From B-52s to B-cups it just does seem like this mind-boggling. When you tell people what you do, jaws must drop.
They do. But that's when we were talking about earlier, we make no goals or plans. I didn't plan any of this. I'm a special child. I'm grateful that God has picked and chose me and turned something that could have went so bad into something so beautiful. I hope that people or children, even grown-ups, can see my story and hear my story and say that, wow, if things turned around for her, they can turn around for me. Growing up in a projects, low-income family to an engineer is not a dream that someone thinks of. And now to a designer who did New York Fashion Week is even bigger. I did New York Fashion Week in 9 months of us even opening. For me, that's the shortest time a designer has. I don't know, I hadn't done the data, but people around me have said that's the shortest time that a designer has done New York Fashion Week. It shows the determination, even from that 14-year-old girl, how determined I was to become and make something of myself and not stay in that environment.
You had a show here in the New York area this weekend.
Yes,
tell us about it. What happened?
Oh, it was amazing. So the theme was Sex in the City. Fashion.
Wish I could act surprised.
And I love that. I'm pointing, but there's a little balcony that we're seeing, and it's kind of Sex and the City-ish.
We're sitting on Madison Avenue in the 60s, the Upper East Side.
Yes.
And we are in an office building for a public relations firm, but it looks like a little pied-à-terre, and it does have a terrace outside. So welcome to that. And,
so I did an all-black affair. That was so Sex and the City, and I wanted that whole, black is sleek. It's very comforting, and it's very, looks flattering on a woman's body. So I guess the couple weeks of my launch, my first year anniversary, I decided to show some of our iconic pieces that we launched with at the fashion show as a tribute. So I had some that were made, and then some that I threw in that I had before, but it was amazing. We got an overwhelming response. I mean, a lot of the people, the crowd, they love my pieces. I got a lot of people coming up to me afterwards, wanting to place orders. So that's great. So we'll see if those go through, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
And it's kind of like show business.
It is.
I mean, you're dressing models. They're walking a runway. There's cameras, light bulbs going off, videos being shot, and it has the feeling of show business.
It really is. And I love being behind the scenes. I love dressing the models. I like styling them, fitting them. I like every aspect of making our garments, or, in this case, lingerie. Because you start from a little drawing. You might want to do a tech pack. You don't need it if you're not going to do the production part of it, if it's just going to be a sample. And then you go from the sample to making it, and then do the fit, and then it's on the runway.
And how long a process is that? You decided to be in this show this past weekend.
Yeah.
Do you start 6 months ago, 9 months ago?
I was telling
3 weeks ago?
I was telling Bill that this opportunity just jumped in my lap 2 weeks ago.
Bill Bergoli is our engineer.
These
2
two
weeks
shows, ago? Bill, the one I did in Houston, we have a problem. And the one in New York just came 2 weeks ago. So you can see how I'm on it. And you see what I deliver. I'm on it. This is meant for me. Like, it shows in my work. You know what I mean? Who has 2 weeks to do it, 2 shows? We're just in February. These things were booked right after we said Happy New Year.
The 1 year anniversary of your company. What have you learned in the first year?
Gosh, not to say yes to everything, especially when it comes to big financial purchases. Stick to the budget. And your team is very important. Marketing is more important than it is to do a bunch of things that are not going to yield results.
And that's a learning curve.
Yeah, that's a learning curve. Allocating your funds in a more, growing area of your business. I already knew what my strengths were, but then some of those weaknesses are just understanding my competitors, my customers, and how to pivot. To be I'm engineer mindset, working a 9-to-5, structured, and then the entrepreneur is 24/7, all day. I wanted to quit like so many times. Like, I'm done. I have a real job. It's not a problem. You're not hurting. It's, what are you doing? Do you really want this? You took something that you just loved and it was just for you. And now you're wanting to share this brand. But to take it from baby to, household name, gosh. I passed out last year at the Nike on my way I got selected to be one of Nike's designers. And I could tell when I was overworking myself is I was on a flight and I passed out and I'm exhausted because I'm in the air all day, every week, every month. It seemed like I was somewhere for Delisa Rose. And that's the life of an entrepreneur. I said, this is the life. This is what entrepreneurs go through. They make it look so easy. They make it look so like it's a 9-to-5, and it's not. That was the lessons that 2023 taught
From the
me.
fashion runways to the airport runways. It's been a bumpy flight this first year, but we are spending intimate nights with Delisa Rose, and this is a podcast all about her journey. We're glad you could join us.
Thank you.